Did productivity rates really double while our wages remained flat? And does this mean that the minimum wage, for instance, should have been $22 an hour by now, had it merely kept pace with productivity? Well, not necessarily. Changes in productivity vary between industries. For instance, here we see some where productivity went up, even as others went down. In another example, we see that productivity has grown faster in manufacturing than it has in other industries. You see, productivity gains are not equal by sector. In fact, the gap between fast food employees' productivity and their compensation is nearly non-existent because the gains were in other industries. So no, minimum wage earners aren't necessarily being deprived of the fruits of their labor. So what about the disparity between income and total productivity? First, we must account for total compensation with benefits, not just hourly wages. Next, we need to adjust for inflation without using CPI, since it doesn't accurately reflect changes in consumer choice or a substitution of goods. And once we do this, we see that from 1979 to 2013, real median compensation actually rose by 38%. That's a sharp contrast to the supposed gains of only 6% had we incorrectly used CPI and hourly wages. But we're still using two different price deflators here, one to measure compensation and the other to measure productivity. And really, we should be applying the same adjustment to both pieces of data. We can do this with the implicit price deflator, which accounts for goods and services that businesses sell to other businesses or export to other countries. And this is something else the CPI doesn't properly reflect. And once we do this, we see that the gap between productivity and compensation almost vanishes. Lastly, official productivity rates are slightly overstated in two ways. One, foreign inputs becoming cheaper can result in the appearance of increased worker productivity that's actually attributable to trade. And two, increasing rates of capital depreciation, since modern firms rely more heavily on computers that quickly become obsolete, whereas firms of the past would invest long-term in a building or a machine. We can adjust for this increased depreciation by using net GDP rather than GDP to help calculate productivity. And when we do, turns out compensation does match productivity.